The Galactic Council chamber hummed with anticipation. Ambassador Velrix of the Korthan Empire stood before the assembled representatives, his 4 eyes gleaming with contempt. Behind him, holographic displays showed Earth, a blue marble spinning in the void. The humans have issued their final warning, Velrix announced, his translator device converting his clicks into standard galactic. They claim their space is forbidden territory. As if a species that achieved FTL travel merely 2 centuries ago could dictate terms to empires spanning millennia. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Kthara representative, a crystalline being named Zinthra, chimed mockingly. Their soul system contains resources we need. Rare earth elements, water worlds, and that curious ability their biology has to produce complex proteins. They should be grateful we're negotiating at all. Admiral Marcus Webb watched the transmission from Earth's Deep Space Command, his jaw clenched. His weathered hands gripped the armrest of his command chair. They're really going to do it, he muttered. After everything we've warned them about. Sir, his communications officer, Lieutenant Rachel Morrison, spoke softly. The Korthan fleet is 3 hours from the Kuiper Belt. 2,000 ships. Webb nodded slowly. Then we show them why humans don't bluff. Commander Velrix stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, flagship of the Korthan Armada. Through the view screen, the distant sun of humanity's home system grew larger. His tactical officer reported 0 resistance. Scanners detect no defensive platforms, no fleet mobilization, the officer said, confusion evident in his biorhythms. Sir, they're doing nothing. Velrix's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Primitive fear. They realize their mistake. Maintain course. We'll occupy their homeworld by. The universe turned white. What the Korthans didn't know, what no alien species understood, was that humans had a unique relationship with their own mortality. Where other species had evolved past their predator phase, humanity had weaponized theirs. Neptune's orbit erupted with light. Not from weapons, but from something far more terrifying, human engineering at its most desperate. 50 years ago, after first contact went poorly with a scout expedition, humanity had made a decision. If they couldn't build the biggest guns, they'd build the most insane ones. Project Rubicon had been born. The Korthan fleet sensors screamed warnings too late. The entire Kuiper Belt, trillions of tons of ice and rock, all seeded with gravitational manipulation devices, had been converted into a weapon. Not a bomb. Something worse. A manufactured quantum uncertainty field. Dr. Jennifer Hawkins watched from Lunar Command as her life's work activated. Tears streamed down her face, not from joy, but from the terrible mathematics she'd proven possible. Schrödinger's minefield, she whispered. God forgive us. The Korthan fleet existed in superposition now. Every ship simultaneously destroyed and intact until observation collapsed the waveform. But humans had rigged the game. The act of the Korthans observing their own fleet. Checking sensors, looking through viewscreens, collapsed the probability wave toward destruction at a rate of 97.3%. Ship after ship simply ceased existing as their own crews looked at their instruments. Commander Velrix watched in horror as 3/4 of his armada vanished. Not exploded. Not disabled. Just, gone. Erased from causality itself. Retreat, he screamed. Full reverse. Do not look at sensor data. Navigation, dead reckoning only. Admiral Webb's face appeared on every Galactic Council screen simultaneously. His expression was not triumphant. It was carved from granite and sorrow. You were warned, he said simply. Humans have one advantage over every species in this galaxy. We are very, very good at killing. We've spent 10,000 years perfecting it on ourselves. We know every method, every strategy, every psychological lever. He paused, letting that sink in. The Korthan fleet has been neutralized. We could have destroyed them completely. We didn't. Because we're also very good at mercy, when it's respected. The quantum field is now permanent around our system. Any ship that enters will face the same fate. Not because we're cruel, but because we asked nicely first. Webb leaned forward. Humanity doesn't want war. We've had enough war to last 1 billion years. But if you force our hand, you'll learn why we're the only species that invented the concept of mutually assured destruction and then lived with that sword over our heads for centuries. Ambassador Velrix, now stripped of rank, stood before the council in disgrace. Of 2,000 ships, only 400 limped home. The survivors spoke in hushed tones about the ghost field, about watching their companions simply unmake themselves through the act of observation. Zinthra's crystalline form had dulled with understanding. They turned quantum mechanics into a psychological weapon. They made their enemy's own perception the trigger. The council chamber was silent. An elder archon, oldest of the assembled races, spoke for the first time in 3 centuries. I remember the old warnings, from species long gone. Never corner a predator species. We thought ourselves beyond such primitive concerns. The hologram of Earth rotated slowly, serene and blue and forever untouchable now. Humanity has drawn their line, the Archon continued. And they've shown us the cost of arrogance. We are old, wise, and advanced. But they are young, desperate, and creative. That makes them far more dangerous than any empire. On Earth, Marcus Webb stood at Arlington Cemetery, placing flowers at his daughter's grave. She died in the first contact incident 50 years ago, the reason he dedicated his life to ensuring humanity never suffered that helplessness again. They understand now, Sarah, he whispered. We're not the strongest. We're not the smartest. But we're the ones willing to weaponize reality itself to protect our home. Above, the stars twinkled. And for the first time in human history, they represented not opportunity, but a boundary that others would respect. Humanity had achieved what no species ever had, they'd made the galaxy afraid, not of what humans would do to others, but of what humans would do to themselves, and take their enemies with them. The price of arrogance had been paid. The lesson was learned. Human space remained human space.